Hello, everyone. Gary Ryan here for the Fed League Flash. And yeah, we're going back in history again, as we do. We have the last couple of Sundays, and to talk about the Delaware Thunder. Now, before I get into this, I want to say, first of all, I'm going to be zooming through this because there's a lot of material to cover, and I got 15 minutes. There's also a lot of hearsay, a lot of rumors, a lot of, well, did this happen? I'm not going to delve into any of that. Okay. If you want to find out some of the drama that went on, go elsewhere on the web. You're not going to get it here. All right. I'm going to try and stick to the facts. All right. So let's zoom into this because there's a lot to cover. Delaware Thunder started one of the four expansion teams for the 2019 to 2020 Fed season. Um, yeah. Remember yesterday's video I talked about expanding too soon? Yeah, it happened. So anyway, Delaware, Charlie Penn's Jr. or Charlie Penn Sr. Excuse me, and his group, Delaware Pro Hockey LLC, brings a team to Delaware, which was always his desire. He always wanted to bring pro hockey to Delaware. He had been coaching and playing in juniors for years and years, so he had a lot of hockey experience. Um, Charlie Pens is a very ambitious, very passionate guy. He knows what he wants and he believes he knows how to get it. His decisions are not always the most practical, and that would kind of define the tenure of the Delaware Thunder as a team throughout its existence up to now. Um, but nonetheless, the team's announced on May 29th, 2019 by the league. First, there was the Danbury Hat Tricks, third iteration of a team in Danbury, but new team. Columbus River Dragons, Delaware, and then the Battle Creek Rumblebees. You know about them. All right, so they choose a center ice rink at the Delaware State Fairgrounds in Harrington, which is just south of Dover, because Penn said, look, if I'm going to have a minor league team, I want to make sure there's no distractions, no other attractions in the area. He didn't think that the team would probably draw well in the northern part of the state. So that's why he chose the small rink in Harrington. The seating was expanded to 700. It was about 400 beforehand, but Delaware State Fair said, yeah, we'll put in more seats. So it's 700 seats. And there was the promise that there would be more. And that just never happened. That was one of the sticking points of the lease throughout its term. All right, so Ryan Marker is selected in the FPHL draft. The first player signed on June 4th. After a couple picks, Charlie Penn said, you know, I'm going to forfeit the rest of my picks and pick my own players, which was kind of a curious move, but, you know, he said he knew what he was doing. And on paper, the team looked great heading into the first season. They had Marker, they had Brandon Contrato, they had Eric Masters, Brendan Young, Taylor Cutting. On the blue line, they had Alex Spacey, they had Charlie Pens Jr., Anthony Pisano. And the biggest move, the best move that Pens made for that first year, even better than Marker, was getting goalie Aaron Taylor from the Danville Dashers. And Taylor would end up being the star of that first season. He was just pure shutdown. All right, so the season gets underway. It's a 10-team league. The Fed's excited, the Thunder are excited, and everybody's excited. You get to the first game on October 25th. It's a sellout crowd. They see Delaware lose to the Columbus River Dragons 5-2. But then the next day, another sellout crowd comes back, and Delaware responds with an 8-2 victory. So things are looking really good at this point in Harrington. And so when we get to the next weekend and the team gets swept by Carolina, the following weekend they get swept by the Elmira Enforcers. And then they play a home and home against Mentor, and it's that away game on Saturday they finally get their second win. But they're struggling, and the attendance starts to falter. So by December 8th, the team is 2-12-0. Contrato's scoring has cooled off. At this point, Marker and Contrato were getting all the goals, or just about all the goals. But now Contrato's not scoring. He's getting frustrated. The team sends him to Battle Creek, who then flip him to Port Huron. All right, Marker's getting frustrated, and then he gets hurt. and he said, I don't like the direction the team's going. I'm not going to play anymore for Delaware. So finally, on February 3rd, Delaware sends Marker to Watertown. Ironically, even though the team is now missing their top two scorers, they're playing better. They go 11, 19, and 1 for the rest of the year. And they're creeping up on Mentor in the standings because Mentor was mired in a 16-game slump. So by the time you got to the playoff push and the trade deadline, Marker's scoring is replaced by Parker Muscal, who's brought in. Muscal at this point had gotten played 25 games, gotten 63 points. So this is a big push. At this point, Delaware is only 3 wins, 9 points behind Mentor in the standings, and they had 3 games in hand. And then COVID hit. And that was a blow that the team just could not seemingly recover from. So the season is canceled. The team ends up in last place, just 9 points behind Mentor with a record of 13, 31, and 1. An average attendance for the year of 499, which wasn't great, wasn't horrible. Aaron Taylor, again, is a star. But then he moves on, and so plans are made for the next season. Luciantini is named the new head coach instead of Penns. And then the league starts to fall apart. Battle Creek's gone. Mentor folds. An expansion team in Bloomington, Illinois falls apart. Another team says, yeah, we're supposed to come in, but we're going to hold off. That's the Motor City Rockers. And travel restrictions prohibit teams from moving about. So Danbury, Watertown, Delaware say, we're just going to opt out of this season and come back next year. So there's the Ignite Cup series, season, whatever you want to call it. But then Delaware makes plans to come back for 21-22. And again, they retool. Ryan Marker comes back. He said, you know what's past is past. I want to come back to Delaware. So Delaware brings him back. The roster's retooled. They got Houston Wilson, Yanni Lariakos, Brandon Lucchesi, Marker. They have a great goaltending tandem of Mike Cosentino and young upstart Trevor Babin, but no real standout player on the blue line. So consequently, the team adopts a style play that I called dump and defend. It wasn't dump and chase. It was dump the puck in, change your lines, and defend. Not a lot of offense being generated. So even though you had some great offensive talent, they didn't have the opportunity to play in the offensive zone a whole lot. So, team starts off losing to Carolina. And then they lost to Carolina again. And then they lost 3 in a row to Binghamton. And the next thing you know, they have lost games for 2 months straight without a win. And people are wondering, is this Battle Creek version 2.0? Finally, on New Year's Eve, Delaware travels up to Binghamton, wins 7-3 for the first win of the year. And that's a big relief, a big burden taken off of the shoulders of the Thunder players. So the team starts to play a little bit better. Alex Susi comes in at the end of January. He chips in 25 points in 23 games, but it's too little too late. The team had dug itself too deep of a hole with all those losses. They end up last place with a record of 9-42-2. But during the course of the year, Babin stole the starter's job away from Cosentino, and he became just all-world player for the Fed. So he is, again, the team MVP. The attendance is up to 675 for the second year. So we get to the expansion draft, and for some reason, Babin is left unprotected, and everybody's going, Charlie Pence Sr., what are you doing? Well, Charlie Pence had found Trevor Martin, who was signed and became the goalie of last year. And of course, he played lights out. All right, so Marker doesn't like what's going on again, and he says, I'm done playing for Delaware. He makes it very public, and he's suspended indefinitely by the league. Basically, the league said, if you're not playing for Delaware, you're not playing anywhere. All right, so the team starts the year. By this time, Santini is now coach and GM. And there's a lot of unknowns on the team that join Susie and Basie and Wilson and Trevor Martin. But they end up playing pretty decent. So they get a win in their fifth game, and then comes the ill-fated and famous 28-game losing streak. 27 of those were in regulation. So again, the team is behind the eight ball. They finally get on track with a win over Elmira, ironically, on February 10th. And the next thing you know, they win 3 in a row, including a win against the Columbus River Dragons. Things are looking not too bad. Hey, maybe we can chase down Elmira in the standings. Maybe we can still make a playoff spot. Like the previous 2 seasons, they started lousy and start getting going as the season goes on. Marker comes back, plays 4 games, gets traded, and then he retires. So the team's kind of climbing their way back in. They're still mathematically in it. They're still chasing down Elmira for that final playoff spot. And then the bottom falls out on March 27th. Delaware State Fair says we are not going to renew the lease with the Delaware Thunder. A petition is formed, Save the Thunder. 5,000 signatures, including mine, went on there, but to no avail. The Delaware State Fair had made up their minds. They were not going to allow Delaware to go back. So the team finishes out the year, finishes off pretty strong. Last game is on April 15th, and it's an overtime loss to Watertown 5-4. Ironically, out of their 9 wins in the last season, as you see the record up there, 4 were against Watertown. They actually had Watertown's number that year, the last year. So the team ends, a standing ovation, a packed house. At the end, attendance is 699, one short of sellout. So the team drew really well, and the fans are passionate. They are behind their team, and they want to save the team. The fact that the lease was expired was not because of attendance. That was not the problem. So Delaware starts examining the opportunity of building their own arena. So they get ground up in Dover. They say, we're going to build an arena there. But it's going to take time to build this arena. So we're going to explore some possibilities as far as maybe temporarily relocating the franchise. So they're looking at sites like Aston, Pennsylvania, and Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and a couple other sites. Nothing really seemed to be panning out. Secret negotiations are going on with the Ice Palace in Brick, New Jersey, and they were this close to a deal. And then somehow news got leaked out. Hey, Delaware is moving to New Jersey, instead of acknowledging that this would be a temporary situation. And the fan base goes nuts. And Charlie Penn's just dealt with this and saying this is a PR nightmare. You know what? We're just going to file for dormancy. We're going to focus on building this arena in Dover, be true to the fan base here in Delaware, and we'll just forget the news. So that was back in early June that the deal with Brick, New Jersey just fell through. So that was the last thing we heard. Now, there is still a committee that exists that is exploring getting things developed and planned and built for an arena in Dover. However, there is no timetable right now for a groundbreaking or construction plan. To my knowledge, plans still have not been drawn up, so everything is still in limbo. When Delaware filed for dormancy on June 19th, the idea was they were going to take 1 year off. It's getting pretty late now to get an arena built and ready in time for the 24-25 season. So what happens now? We're not sure. To be continued, we will see. It's very hard for a team to come back from dormancy. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. So we'll see. That is a story in a nutshell of the Delaware Thunder. Hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that if you weren't sure what happened, this answers some questions. Leave a comment down below, hit like and subscribe. I'll be back tomorrow with a News of the Day video. Thank you so much for watching. For all your support, I'm Gary Ryan for the Fed League Flash.